What a day, Gino. Happy Thursday. Happy Droga Day.
Yes.
Today we have the biggest interview potentially in breaking and entering history. David Droga, absolute legend, is joining the show live in studio here in the next couple of minutes.
Next couple of minutes here, Jack. I'm freaking terrified. How are you feeling?
Really, I heard something recently. The energy or the endorphins that come from being nervous and being excited are the same thing. So I'm choosing to be excited.
I'm excited too, Jack. I'm
I think
pumped.
This for you, big moment. I think for breaking and entering, dream guest list.
Yep.
You write your dreams, you post your dreams, you're public about it. Droga on the dream guest list, Gino.
64 weeks ago, I wrote it. We posted it publicly to show the people who are dream guest lists. 64 weeks later, in a couple minutes, we will be crossing off another guest. And we've become friends with a couple of the people on the dream guest list. Sophia Colucci, Gary Vee. There's it's incredible to me when you put it out there, people react, and you build something that people love, Jack.
Yeah, it's exciting. And speaking of someone that's built something that people love, David Droga.
Oh my gosh!
Is there a little bit of history lesson for maybe the people that are joining, maybe aren't as familiar?
2006. I mean, first off, he was the youngest ECD, I believe, at like 22 or 23 at an agency in Australia, the best agency in Australia. He then went on, kept on accelerating, was the CCO, I believe, at Publicis, a large holding company, at like a very young age before his 30s. He got that position. One thing that he negotiated, Jack, that people don't know about maybe, is in that negotiation, he was to get,
You're good.
Okay. He was supposed to get $1 more, like anytime a creative came on, he would get $1 more than that new creative, so they would negotiate. So he was a big advocate for paying creatives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so every time, so he was always the highest paid person.
Yeah.
within the network. That was $1 more.
Yes.
I think to me that's fantastic, and I think someone who has championed creativity and especially creativity when it comes to like proving it in the boardroom in like the business sense.
Right.
I think you talk a lot. I think it's kind of a thing when you get to the executive level. Should your lead creative, be the CEO? We see it happen sometimes where the CCO becomes the CEO, and that's always the thing that gets brought up. Is like, can you have success by being a creative visionary, but also being someone that operates the business in the executive level?
Why it works so well is because he was, as an executive person, an account side person later on in his career, is because he wanted to defend creativity. He made all the business decisions on how can we make the creatives and have them make the best work possible.
And now he's inducted into the AAF Hall of Fame, and that's why he's here tonight, inducted alongside a few different legends. I know Susan Cradle's on that list, Tim Ellis, Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow is on that list as well. At the Copa
I don't know that song.
You don't know that
song? And I actually don't really know it.
Yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie.
Oldie but a goodie. Oldie but a goodie. But David Droga, oldie but a goodie. But we're excited about it. I'm excited about it personally, Gino.
Anything we want to go over news-wise outside of David Droga coming on?
A couple things that came across my desk, Gino, when we were getting things rolling. Bloomberg, new campaign. I'm excited. This one I think has some oomph behind it. Matt Curry, global head of creative and brand at Bloomberg, recently came over there from Ogilvy, where he was like the global creative lead. So that is an interesting story to me. Like Bloomberg trying to be the place where you go for stories around money. Like how does the different global stories impact the fiscal, the monetary side of things?
Yeah, I mean, Bloomberg, I feel like, as kind of a media property in the business world, has so many functionalities to it. Having Matt Curry, a former Ogilvy executive, come in here and create a unifying message for that brand, I think is phenomenal. We follow the money.
Yeah, we follow the money. And they did with Wyden and Kennedy London.
I did not know that.
Wyden and Kennedy London is on this one, Gino. And so that's pretty cool. And I think you expect that kind of, that matchup, you can envision it, where you have like someone who was agency side, advertising, leading creativity, understands the importance of bringing in an advertising agency potentially when there's like a big campaign like this. And it's a pretty cool, like the way it looks Like it's the flipping
coin.
of the coin flipping, and it's like the different story. And then the money part of it is always at the center with Bloomberg. So I like that. I like establishing like a position as being like, we're the place to go when you want to understand how every big story in the world, how the money part plays into it.
Of course.
It's a big thing. Anything else on this one, Gino? Bloomberg, also like legacy media. Like this is another legacy media brand campaign.
That's right.
That we're seeing more.
No, I think, like I said, the unifying message around a big brand like this is no easy task here. Matt came in that role fairly recently, so it was good, a fast turnaround to create this campaign. Proud of that work there. Excited to see how that goes for.
But I mean, you
Bloomberg
saw
folks.
like New York Times,
New York Times did a similar
The
thing.
Guardian did like a big brand campaign as well. So it's like a trend that I feel like is relatively new of media companies, legacy media companies, being in on branding and going in on that and making that a focus and a priority for marketing.
Absolutely.
Which feels all kind of convoluted.
Next story here. Weddings are getting sponsored here, Jack. This is a fun one. Taylor Lorenz first commented about this, I believe, in 2019.
She commented on something similar, on a similar topic. But recently we saw this tweet that Taylor put out. She quote tweeted, but someone did some sponsored content from their wedding. I want to clear something up. The wedding was not necessarily sponsored in the sense that like all the wedding content was brought to you by Capital One. It was just like this person I think got married several months ago and then created content about their wedding that was sponsored by Capital One. Which all that to say, like, what a world we live in. Because remember the guy that had the suit, the tux for his wedding, and he put brand logos on it? That was very funny. This feels much more serious. Your take on it all, Gino?
I love it. Of course, as an advertising commentator, I think I'm all in on this. I wrote down my 3 brands that I would want to sponsor my wedding one day in the future.
All right, let's hear it.
Now.
Here we go.
Stoke Coffee, number 1.
Wow.
Love that stuff. I buy a bottle. I go through almost a bottle every single day. Number 2, Nike. Why not?
Why are you talking? What does Nike have to do with your wedding day?
Shoes. Everybody's decked out in shoes.
Oh, you're going to be the guy that does like the sneakers at your wedding?
Yeah.
Dude, that's so lame. That's terrible. You can't do that. Class it up a little
And number
bit.
3, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay. That
These are
sounds
just
more
brands
like,
that I love.
that could also sponsor this show. That's very smart.
Oh,
That's very
I didn't
smart.
see that coming.
That's a good way to look at it. I like what you're saying there, Gino. I mean, this sponsored content at your wedding, I also tend to agree with you that I think it's hilarious. I just think what a world we live in. Everything's sponsored content. The other thing that was interesting is that everyone in this person's comment section was loving it.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, hell yeah.
This is not an influencer?
It is an influencer.
Okay, it is.
That's why Capital One would sponsor
got
it. The people in the comments are loving it. They're like, yeah, amazing. An ad done right, slay. An ad done right, slay.
I hope they stick together.
I hope so too. Love is love. Speaking of fashiontainment, another fashiontainment story has hit the timeline, Gino. This time it's Marc Jacobs. Rachel Sennett.
We've talked about her every day on this dang show.
Rachel Sennett is staying busy. We saw her with Venmo do a little quick 35 millimeter film story, 2.5-minute video. Back again, Rachel, a lot of creative freedom again here. She's coming in with Marc Jacobs, Gino. What do you think about this?
Yeah, this is interesting stuff here. I am not an expert in this category here, but I think drawing off the actual category itself, what are the other fashiontainment things that we've seen?
Gap
is the gold standard. If we're comparing this apples to Gap, I mean, the Gap one blows this out of the water in my opinion. But the target audience, I'm not actually in the target audience. People must love her because she's in every single ad that I've seen lately. And it must be hitting the right algorithm.
It's a 2.5 minute episode, mini episode. What are they calling it? Drama. Micro drama.
Yeah.
Micro drama. We need a better word for that. We need a better word for fashiontainment as well. But this is a trend that's continued, and it's all the Adweek article is great. They did some great reporting here, and the CMO at Marc Jacobs talking about how they're reframing and reorganizing their marketing team to pretty much just be content creators. Not content creators in the sense of bringing on influencers, content creators in the sense of people that can create content, people that know how to create a storyline, know how to make it happen, and pretty much leaning all the way into social in a world where all of fashion marketing on social was just like photo shoots.
Right.
And all of marketing in general for fashion was a lot of photo shoots and then like celebrity partnership photo shoots. And now they're like, we're gonna make entertainment.
It's a good step in the right direction here, and I love how they give a shout out to Kareem from Subway Takes.
Yes.
She's looking for him there.
Yeah, it was solid. I think like it's always hard to capture New York City culture effectively, but I think by bringing in Rachel, first name basis because I just can't figure out her last name.
Sano.
She's in the know. Rachel Sano is in the know. So I think it was solid. I think Fashiontainment's going to get very, very saturated in the next couple weeks.
I love this next one, Jack. This next one is incredible. We love to see it here at the Break Entering headquarters, but Sam's Club, which is owned by Walmart, you can now, if you're an advertiser, you can now place ads over the intercom system at a Sam's Club in-store or within their, I believe, the units where you pump your gas.
Yeah, I am loving this. Everything about this. I love the idea of walking through and the ambient noise of the grocery store filling me with ads to spur my choices in where I spend my money.
Yeah, there's so many fun, creative
Hey!
ways in. Hey,
aisle 3. Yeah, like
on aisle 3.
I think that could be fun. Where I question it is I think most people wear headphones when they shop.
Oh, you think so?
I mean, I do.
If you're
You
with
guys?
your family and stuff, I don't think you'll have your headphones in.
Yeah, if you're with your family for sure. If
Yeah.
you got a kid.
Yeah.
I guess people that actually go to Sam's Club, I take that back. If you're going to Sam's Club, you're probably someone who isn't
Yeah.
headphones in every second of the day.
Yeah.
But I put this on here as kind of like a joke, but also not really a joke. But what a world. Fragmentation of media. Sam's Club, leaning into it. Everyone's a media network, Gino.
I love it.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a retail media network. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Anything else there before we wrap up and get into the last?
Shout out to Harvey Ma for giving us opportunities to place more ads in more places.
Shout out.
That's the Sam's Club of
Yes.
Sam's Club VP of Retail Media.
And we should have our intercom, but there's ads in like the elevator too.
Every 10
Replace
seconds.
elevator music with
For
ads.
sure.
Last story, Mountain Dew. Do the Dew, Gino.
I love
one's-
this guy.
The new Mountain Dew
I like
character.
this new Mountain Dew guy.
The brand mascot for Mountain Dew is hilarious. He's got long hair. It's flowing. Mountain Dew never one to take themselves too seriously, but here they're leaning into America.
Yes,
They're leaning into American tradition, and by doing that,
Look at this
parlaying
guy.
into their own media American tradition. Gino, anything here?
Yeah, look at that guy. That guy's awesome. Okay, here, this is made by Goodby, Silverstein, and Partners. Ever heard of it, Jack?
Yes.
Okay, and did you know Mountain Dew was created in 1948? Well, that's what this ad is talking about. Great taste since 48. Tasting great since 48.
Oh,
it's a fun
it's a fun one,
execution.
and they got the limited edition cans. It's American Dew, Gino. And then this was fun, cool little thing here. You got the guy towards the end. He flips the cello, and cello, you have a bass. I wonder if they drew inspiration from that. I think we have a breaking news announcement.
What is this?
Uh-oh.
Cam here.
Is there something going on?
Oh,
Here we go.
it seems
Here we go.
It seems like David is in the
Oh,
building.
David Droga is in the elevator. If you see here the Droga Cam, this is my favorite thing that we've ever done. We're gonna lose them in the elevator,
Of course.
Gino, but Droga Cam introduced now.
Oh yeah.
Droga is in the building. If your chat, let's get some W's in the chat for Droga here.
Absolutely. Hopefully we're live here. Everything's working.
Yeah, everything's working. I got the YouTube pulled up. I'm in the chat right now. David Droga is entering the building. If we get the elevator, we'll be able to see him come in here. David Droga, the biggest legend in advertising history.
And
is
now, from New South Wales, Vice Chair of Accenture, former CEO of Accenture Song, founder of Droga 5, 25-time Agency of the Year, the most awarded creative in Cannes Lion history, David Droga.
David, welcome to the show. He's walking in now. What a moment. I don't think he knows what he just walked into.
Come on in.
How's it going? David, you can take a seat here. Well, you're going to have to maneuver a little bit. Great to meet you. This is it. Here, you got the mic here.
Okay.
You just need to just clip it on there, on the lapel, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
But this is a nice suit. I
Well, it's a
appreciate you
jacket,
wearing
you know.
the jacket.
It's a mild effort. It's not too big an effort, but it's a mild effort.
Yeah.
How
That's
you guys
fair.
going?
Oh, things are great. Things are great. Appreciate you stepping in.
Okay.
And it's a big day for you, right?
It's a pretty interesting day.
I can imagine. Is there a world of emotions? Because we're on Wall Street right now. Wall Street, a street that's very familiar to you.
Well, my office is still downtown. So, well, my old office, they're all still there. I'm not there, but so it has an emotional part to me. I mean, yeah, tonight it's flattering. It's aging, so that's depressing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you know, a bit of validation sometimes is a good thing. Can't take it too seriously.
Heck yeah. Well, we're excited to talk with you today before you get this this honor. So really want to kind of back things up here and understand you, how you got here. You know, I'm curious right off the bat here. You mentioned in past podcasts or past interviews that a lot of your career was the right decisions at the right time. So I'm curious, what were some of those best time decisions in your career, whether it was luck or not?
It's an interesting question, that. Actually, I was trying to explain that to one of my kids recently. And best decisions sometimes aren't the obvious ones. Sometimes it's, I don't know why I had the capacity to make the right decisions all the time. One of my brothers always says that I have a sixth sense to sort of jump from one thing to another at the right time, or sort of try something when people don't see it. But I think for me it was multiple times in my career when I was interested in doing or moving to a new level, or experimenting, or whether it be moving abroad to take on a new job, or was quitting jobs that ticked all the boxes that people thought they wanted, and not being afraid to leave behind things, like, you know, not to get caught up in stuff. Like, you know, when I left Australia to move to Asia, I was actually talking about this morning to my son. I gave up because Clemenger was bought by Clemenger, which was BBDO, bought my agency there, and I had a 25% stake in it. And I remember giving my stake away for a rug instead of staying for 3 years, because I wanted to leave. I wanted to move to Asia and run Saatchi Asia. So there are many times in my career that I gave up things that people wanted, that they fight to have, and I was like, no, I'd rather have my freedom.
Absolutely.
And when I left Publicis to go and start Droga 5, same thing. You sort of give up the job that you think you want, big corner offers, salaries, notoriety, accoutrements, all that sort of BS. And, you know, left a lot of equity on the table. And because in my head, I was like, I'd rather fly in the middle seat in economy next to the toilets for my own agency than sit in first class for someone else's company.
Absolutely.
That's pretty inspiring. I feel like that's pretty honest. And I also wanted to mention at the onset here that I think we have something in common that maybe you don't have in common with a lot of other people. I am the fifth boy in my family. So I just thought that I would just get that out of the way.
Do you have any younger siblings?
I'm the youngest.
Oh,
I'm the
wow,
youngest,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, that's being the fifth boy. It's fantastic. I mean, as I said, I've also got two younger sisters who actually flew over for this, which is
nice.
ridiculous. I mean, it's amazing. It's lovely, but I think they really just want to come to New York.
Fair.
But yeah, youngest of 5 boys.
Yeah, youngest.
Get away with it.
I have a sister. My sister's the oldest.
Okay.
So she was like, the dynamic is pretty interesting because it's like having another mother, and then she's got to deal with all these 5 boys behind her. But I can relate to you with that. But I also remember growing up, it was all about like, what could I do to gain the attention?
Oh.
I need the attention. It's a battle every day. I wonder if you had the same experience.
Still to this day, like every second achievement that I have, my first thought is like, in your face to my brothers. I mean, with love.
Yes.
But there's definitely a part of you that is, you know, trying to prove that you're not invisible, or you're not a screw up, or you can outdo them. As I said, it sort of transcends work. It's as much as if we were playing cards, we're playing hula hoops, if we were doing any skiing, anything. I want to beat them because I was the little schmuck in their eyes for my whole life.
Right.
And they still treat me, even though, you know, I'm 57. You know, they're old. They still treat me like I'm 12, which I love, to be honest, because I can get away with just being myself.
Right. What do your siblings do for careers?
Well, it's quite a mixed bag actually. But my 3 eldest, they're all quite reasonably successful. My eldest is a serious banker for some big bank in like the stock market bank in Australia, and then my other brother runs the largest private hedge fund in Australasia. And my other brother runs his own hedge fund, which is even bigger. And then I have another brother who's a sculptor, actually.
Wow.
He's amazing. He's the laziest sculptor I've ever met in his life because he just, travels around and does shit and renovates his house, but he's amazing. And then I have my younger sister, Annika, who's the best of all of us. She works at suicide prevention hotline. And then my other sister is a stay-at-home mum. So it's a mixed bag. But
It's a mixed bag.
Well, I want to, on the brothers side, do you resonate more with the hedge fund brothers or the sculptor brother?
See, that's a great question because to both of them, I'm a compromise.
Yeah,
Right?
You're the middle.
Well, that's the whole thing because I'm a creative through and through in my head. That's what I've always wanted to be. And I sort of bluff to be a business guy because it allows me to build and sustain being a creative person. That's why I built my own company, wanted to be successful. That's why I took on the mantle of being CEO because I want to protect the creative for the next generation of creatives. So I see myself as a creative that has to lean into and be a business person to protect that. So my business brothers, as I said, the finance guys, they're like, you're not really a business guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And then my sculptor brother, he's like, well, you're not really a creative. I mean, to be honest, I'm like, fuck you, I'm better. I've conquered both of your fields. So,
yeah, and then you got to prove that you're a better sculptor. I mean, of course, you got to get it, and he's got to do the same.
Well, that's the thing. That's the beauty about art and sculpture. It's all open to interpretation. So,
right.
Anything's great if someone says it is. Or
Who's
if you
to
believe
say?
it is. Who's to say?
That's got to be hard. I feel like it sounds like the idea of competition and winning is a big part of it. It maybe fuels you. But when it comes to art, it's very much up to interpretation. Advertising is a little bit different because you can look at like accolades and awards and all that. But for you, was the best part like winning a pitch, or was it about making something that people cared about?
Well, definitely for me, the most important thing is to make something that people care about. Like that is the greatest privilege of any part of my career, or anyone who has a career in this industry, or anyone that's paid to be creative, to be honest. That's the best part. If you can create something that moves people and all that sort of stuff. But there's an accountability and a responsibility with the creativity we do as creative with a conscience, because it has to work. Otherwise, you don't get more opportunities. Otherwise, we sort of blow up the whole industry, the premise of the industry.
I was going to ask about the work itself. I'm very eager to show you some of my favorite campaigns that you made. Is it okay if I bring out the whiteboard and show you my top 3 favorite campaigns from Droga?
Okay, I'm nervous.
All right, let's bring it out here.
Top 3, because I can't even cull it down to top 20.
All right,
This
got
is-
my
this is
board
hard.
here.
Gina, there's some hot takes I think on this one, David. So I'm excited for you to react to this.
Okay.
Okay, so
Good. Okay. So, Droga 5 has one of the best agencies of all time, and there's a lot of work to choose from. Shout out to Ad Age who did that great article on you.
Oh, yeah,
you
that's
and
nice.
Tim, that was amazing.
So I come through, and for my number 3 favorite Droga 5 campaign, we have the Bud Light and HBO here. So is it true that you killed off Wyden Kennedy's distinctive brand asset
Yes.
in a part of this process?
Yes, it was actually a very fun process. And again, it's one of those things that I say to any creators. The idea, I loved the idea when the team presented it to me, but it wasn't just about Bud Light. It was the idea, it started with, because we were hired by HBO and for Game of Thrones. And we thought, well, what's the most HBO Game of Thrones thing to do is to just, because every character that you like gets killed. They just kill anyone. There's nothing. So our starting point was, well, let's kill the Bud Knight, right? Now I had to go and have a secret meeting with the CEO of Bud because I didn't want anyone to know that we were going to do it. And so I had to convince him, like, we're going to kill something you've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in live TV. But also at the same time, this is where it's interesting, I had backup options in my back pocket because if Bud Light said no, I was going to kill the Burger King. And if the Burger King didn't let us kill the Burger King, I was going to kill, with the White Walkers, I was going to kill the Coca-Cola's polar bears. So I had fallbacks of like, if I can't talk them into letting us kill the mascot, I'm going to go to Burger King. And if I can't, but what was amazing is, again, this is why the beauty of my career, there's some of the most outrageous things we've done. You'd think were the hardest things to convince. And they were up for it. I mean, I had sort of the pop culture and the scale of Game of Thrones was so big. And I did sort of say, and I also knew that it was Wyden's, their campaign, which was a great campaign. So I called, Colleen and said, listen, I've sold this idea to Bud.
It's happening.
It's happening. Out of respect for you, I wanted to tell you. And also out of respect for you, the second that the Bud night comes into the picture, your creatives can be on set and they can film that part, so we don't encroach on your IP. You know what I mean? So we had Droga 5 creatives and director, and then they had their creatives and director. It was a great collaboration. But I said I didn't want Wyden to think, even though I was killing their character, which I loved, that we were also just trying to, I wanted to honour their campaign they've created. So it was a fantastic matchup. But so, again, it sounds outrageous. It was great. It was fun to do. No one, and keeping it a secret was the biggest thing. That's why I went to the CEO, and then he spoke to the CMO, and they had to keep it to themselves, which again is, that was pretty good.
Yeah. Closed door conversations. You
I love
can't let that. You
I
can't
know,
let that
exactly.
leak.
If it leaked, it was fun to do.
These are like the kind of conversations, like you talk about these high level security, government clearance. This is that version where you're saying, like, you can't close the door, turn down the blinds, show the wire, make sure you're not wearing a wire so that anyone finds out.
I think that's, if I had one memory of Droga 5, that was one of the things I'd carry with me for my life is, I was spoiled for choice. I had, some of the greatest creatives, of all levels of different styles and everything like that. But I used to walk from office to office and, spend time in each office. And, you'd go in and talk the most heady, important thing with one team. And, you'd be trying to create something important, something really solid and monumental that moved the needle for, societal issues. That was deep. And then you'd walk into the next office and I'd literally be laughing my face off at this absurdity of this new thing. And it might have been HBO or it could have been for Johnsonville, whatever it was, just something so audacious. And then I'd go to the next office and it was like beautiful or or the New York Times, and just to dip in of these universes and worlds we created with such talented people. And my moods were always, dramatic and fun, and there was always laughter and there was always headiness in every day. And that was the beauty of the environment we built.
Yeah, it's good.
Number 2 here is more dramatic ad here.
Yes.
Number 2 on my list of top 3 campaigns would be Michael Phelps for Under Armour.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This was 2016, I believe, and Michael Phelps training. He was already one of the most decorated Olympians, I believe, at that time. Can you talk to us about that piece of art?
Well, same thing again. It was one of those things where we were asked to do work for the Olympics, and there was actually two ads in that section. There was the Michael Phelps one, and there's one for the women's gymnastics team, which is I love as well. Actually, great music, MIA, and all that stuff. But the challenge with Michael was he was the most decorated, still even before these Olympics, decorated Olympian of all time. But people didn't really know him. I mean, how can you be people that familiar with someone, but don't really know him? And I think his successes were so huge that I think people start to take for granted that he's just a machine or a robot. And we were saying, well, actually, behind that is so much grunt and grime and loneliness. And, there's a lot of mental health issues there. Not issues, but like challenges there as well to train that much. So the objective was most Olympic ads show people as the heroics of it all, right? It's like the glory, the glory, the glory. And we're like, that's the only thing we know about him is the glory. So why don't we show the methodical, tedious grunt and the loneliness of his training in real life? And we just filmed, we took creative license with the pool going on and never ending and stuff like that. And originally I remember the team, which was Toby and Laura, great team, one of my favorites. They wrote a beautiful, sort of poetic manifesto that was about, what you do and how he's, all that. So it was fantastic. And all the way along, it was sort of aside. And then I remember when they showed me the footage in the end and they found this great song. We talked about the song with the people who run the music thing as well. I was like, let's just kill all the voiceover completely and just keep the one line. There was one line and that said, what you do in the dark puts you in the light. I said, just make that the whole thing. And I said, lean on the music. The words will never do anything more powerful than what Michael's doing. And I think that sometimes you've got to be honest with what's the power. Like sometimes people try and jam pack things in too much and they start neutralizing each other. And again, it made him vulnerable and lonely, and it's a boring, hard life to get to that medal. So there's suddenly a dimension to him that no one had seen. And my favorite part about this was, I remember when Kevin Plank, the founder of Under Armour, showed this to Michael and his fiance at the time, now his wife. He started crying, and he filmed him crying watching it for the first time because he felt that no one had ever captured the struggle and the hard work he put in to getting there. And actually then we, with his permission, we used him watching the ad
Oh, fantastic.
as the teaser.
Yeah.
So just seeing Michael cry, you didn't see what he was looking at, natural, real cry. So again, like things I'm drawn to, I always have been drawn to sort of the marrow of what's the truth of the people audience and what are you trying to get to? And what do you want people to think or feel at the end of something? And sometimes it can be emotional and you want to be emotionally attached to him, or the audacity of Game of Thrones. Like what's something that only they could do? And I think instead of just starting to create creative that is anyone could do, I try and support and mine or get the creatives. What's something that only this brand or this thing can do? And if you do that, then it gives you so much creative platform and freedom. And then you've just got to make it fucking great and epic and execute it flawlessly. But
Yeah, but everything was there. I mean, I think that's to get the Michael Phelps to have him be moved. I think that's pretty rare. Because I was going to ask about how he felt about, because you admitted most people have never seen that side. So for him to be able to like allow that to happen.
well, again, it's one of those things where, well, first of all, you tell, because, we did a lot of stuff with Steph Curry and Tom Brady and Misty Copeland and all that, a lot of great stuff right now, actually. But I think any athlete being told that not only do they want to be a major campaign about them, but they want to sort of really get to celebrate who they are. So it's not just at a bubblegum level, but and I think Michael probably knew, like, how can you be the most successful Olympian of all time, but kind of be taken for granted and undervalued? And he wasn't likable. That's not that he was a bad person,
Right.
because people didn't know him. People thought he was robotic because he was so fucking good. And as I said, I'm an emotional person, so I'm drawn to the emotion of anything to find out what's the emotional connection I want or the people to get to. But yeah, he was seeing him move by that was, again, you couldn't ask for more, right?
No. And I think that leads into, you talk about emotion, the last one.
Absolutely. Honorable mentions, of course.
Of course.
Of course, the Mark Echo. You've talked about it many times. Amazing piece of work. Really was, I believe, the first thing sold for Droga 5. Really put you guys on the map. It set the tone for you all. Newcastle, I'm a huge fan of as well.
That's a fun one.
Not the Super Bowl commercial. And, did you know Scott Bell was the VO for that, Jack? If you go back and watch it, Scott Bell was the VO.
Yeah, he had a good. We're big fans of using the explosion sound effect.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
With our content,
There it is.
and we talked to Scott, and he said when they were coming up with all the different executions, when they didn't know how to end the clip, they just explosion noise.
Yeah, no,
and
he's
the
great.
black
You
screen.
can always, it's a good go-to thing. But what a great talent he is as well. And again, sometimes, you don't have to be loyal to anything beyond the perfect outcome. And, even if there was voiceover artists and all that, just hearing his voice, it's so obtainable, so grounded, so fun. So, it's not professional, which makes it, again, believable and organic. And that's, again, I'm like, knock yourself out. You should do the voice.
And the Clearasil bottle, there's this Clearasil campaign where he was the voiceover for that too.
I forgot that too.
Like it aired, like
Yeah.
an actual ad.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
It's amazing.
Number one
I'm so curious.
is Puma's Hardcores. I love this.
This
spot
this
here.
is wild because of the fact that, like, if you saw it come back in the culture, this video around like the pandemic time, I think is when it took off again because of like viral social media videos. But this one's pretty wild. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I think like seeing these like rough guys in a pub starting to sing the song here, just showcasing like the contrast between the two for Puma, Valentine's Day, singing a love song to them. I mean, it's been memed. It was the resurgence of this. It's just so fun to watch here.
Yeah.
Did you expect this to be my number one?
I didn't, but I didn't, but I do love it. It's such a case study in, again, really powerful things can be the simplest out of the blue things, because but it's Puma. There's a lot of stuff we did for Puma that I liked as well, and great client, by the way, Antonio Bertone, brilliant client. But it's a fun one because, as I said, and this probably is one of the cheapest things we ever did.
I was gonna say,
We didn't even pay them. To pay them because backstory. So Puma launching in football in UK, football crazy market. Adidas and Nike basically owned everything. They didn't have the budgets and everything like that. And they wanted to, and the weekend they wanted to announce. This is where, again, great strategy. I mean, for all the success of Droga 5 and the creative, and, you know, I'm a creative person. The creative department is like the heart, but it wasn't just the creative department that built Droga 5. You know, we have the best planning department, the best account service department. We had the best production department, like all of those things. And I'd say to anybody who'd listen, you know, people hired us for the creative. You know, they came in to see us because of the creative. They hired us because of our strategy, and they stayed because of our production and our account service. But this one, the planners discovered that, you know, it was around Valentine's Day when they wanted to launch. And we thought, well, how funny is that? The dilemma of, if you're a hardcore football fan, you know, do you hang out with your better half on Valentine's Day, or do you go to the game? And I'm just, you know, generalizing here. I'll just say that majority of it is male. I'm not saying that they're only, but we thought, well, there's something funny. There's a tension. I also love exploring tensions between things. And it's real tension. It's not a manufactured tension, right? There would have been stress in some households, like, oh my God, I want to go to the game, blah, blah, blah. So we thought, well, what's the best way to do this? And we all know the sort of the English crowds have the most outrageous songs, and they're pretty colourful, some of these songs.
Yeah,
some of them get verge into really bad. And of all the clubs in the UK, Millwall is the toughest club. And what I mean by toughest, their crowd is called the Firm, and they're like hardcore. Like, you wouldn't want to mess with them. They're the sort of people that you read about, you know, bad things have happened. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, wouldn't it be funny to exactly take that sort of ferociousness and get them to sing the really soppiest love song. I can't remember the band's name, but I know the band got back together because of this, so I should apologise to everyone for that, but they got back together. But, and all we had to do was buy them lunch, unlimited beer in the pub, and have at it. And so these are real, as I said, these are not actors, these are not choirs, this are real people. You know, it was actually a young Swedish team, Eric and Peder, I think was the creatives. And it was just one of those things, it was just, and, you know, send this digital letter that you could send to your bride. And eventually, the follow-up to this the next year, which again, I love the absurdity of this one, was we actually commissioned, I think it was Newcastle University, one of the headier scientific-based universities in UK, to commission a white paper where they really studied football fans, whether they loved their wives or their team more. And we really they had electrodes to them. They had to cut up photos of their wife, and they had to cut up photos of their football team, and they had electrodes to them, and they had to do all these things. And they marked it all out just to see who loved Savage Garden. That was the thing. But again, these things.
What was the response? What was the
The actual
finding of that?
answer?
There was exactly the response was. I think there's a deeper love.
Like, your emotions go deeper.
Yeah, I think
wider range.
their reactions were harder to cut up their football team than it was to cut up. but
That's attention. That's attention.
but again, it's playful, it's fun, and sometimes there's nothing more outrageous, more emotional, more silly, more blah blah blah, whatever, or shocking than real life reality. And again, that was an example. I said that probably cost hardcore. Probably cost, you know, including crew and all that, like 50 grand to make. Wow. You could make that today for $5 grand.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we still have to send crews there, and I think, again, that's the thing. Sometimes we've made things that cost millions and millions of dollars, and sometimes we've made things that cost nothing. And a great idea is actually even better when it's smaller, because it's not compromised with expectations and 1,000 things. And a lot of times, the more expensive ads, people put too much into. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it just dilutes it.
Well, as you see, like with the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl is like a joke. I find this. That's why half the time our Super Bowl ads, we lance them by being, as I said, the Newcastle stuff, or the Bud Knight stuff, I mean, the HBO stuff, or even the Coinbase thing. Like I like going against the grain, because everyone's in this arms race to put more and more and more and more layers and layers and layers, and all ends up looking the same. They all look like some, you know, Bride of Frankenstein type of thing.
They all look like Super Bowl ads.
Yeah.
You know?
And they're not the ones that people remember. And you know, so it's an interesting choice, because
Not a bad list.
I like anything you picked, because I think I could never pick three. That's my problem.
I was going to say, what changes would you have made to that list? What would be your number one, most important?
I don't have a number one. I'm not saying that to be defensive or anything, because there's so many at different times there were things that were really crucial for us. that sort of took us in new directions, that sort of expanded what we could do. And,
Yeah.
you know, because obviously Echo set the precedent for Droga 5. So that's why it sort of gets all, you know, it wasn't just, it was of the times, it was of digital, it was viral, it was using media that no one had used, fucked with sort of, you know, the news media as your. But then I'd say Tap Project was something that changed things for us because
Incredible.
we raised like $15 million on just creating a logo.
How many pages did that extend to? The editor assigned you a brief, right? Like you get one page
Right.
in the magazine, then he gave you multiple pages because of that idea.
Yeah, he started with one page, which again, for context, when he told me that he was going to, because it all comes back to, you know, he was going to put me in their best and brightest edition. This sort of year one of Droga 5, and I was like, fuck, that's great. That's amazing. Great, of course. And then he goes, but, you know, you got to explain to him the future of advertising. I don't get it. Like, so I want you to make an ad for me. I was like, oh, fuck, I have to sing for my supper.
Yeah, right.
That's why I sort of wanted to pick a charity, because something I believe in unison. So he started with one ad, and then when I presented him the idea of branding tap water in New York City, and he loved it so much that he gave me 3, and then it sort of boomed from there, and we had hundreds of restaurants sign up. And then for the next 5 years, Esquire kept on being the major thing. As I said, it sort of from just designing a logo, we raised $15 million. So it's kind of unbelievable. And so that was an important one for me. It's probably my favorite thing that I ever did for my mother. That was the thing she liked the most. She's an activist, she was an activist, environmentalist. Prudential was a big one for us. I'm just going through chapters. I'm not going through everything, by the way, just of things that changed things for us, because we went from being small and scrappy to be able to take on the biggest, driest categories in the country and do something interesting and appropriate. And suddenly, by doing Prudential at the same time that we were doing the Pumas and the Taps or the Echoes, it suddenly proved to ourselves and the industry, we're not an agency that has a house style who's trying to do one thing. We just want to be great and do the right thing for whatever brief is in front of us. And I think that was an important expansion for us. And then it goes on and on. You know, the Great Schlep for Obama was something to prove that we could influence.
Yeah,
Let's hover there for a second.
That was what I want to talk about for sure. I think there's you know, in the research that we do, we come across photos, and this photo right now, if you can see it there, it's you're there in the White House, and if you recognize that person in the back there at the table, at the head of the table with Obama, I might add. Is David Droga. So you're at the head of the table there. That feels like a conscious decision by you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to establish alpha. No, not at all, not at all. I sat where my name card was put. That's where my
Secret Service plate.
That's where my name card was put. I would definitely.
But it's fascinating to me. I mean, it's incredible. And then the Great Schlep, of course, helping. Gino loves this, by the way, because of the targeted audience for the Great Schlep. You talk about speaking to a very specific group. That had to have been really.
Again,
empowering.
it goes back to strategy. Like sometimes the best way to talk to someone is indirectly connect with them. You know what I mean? Like if I can't influence you directly, can I talk to the person that does influence you or does you care about? And so this is, you know, the manifestation of it was wonderful and fresh and fun and, you know, of the times. But as I said, strategically, it was really important. And again, it goes back to the truth. Like if you start with what is the truth? What is the truth in that equation is the elderly Jewish population was very nervous about him because of his name and, you know, other factors, which is unfortunate. But all the things that they care about the most love him. You know, all their grandkids are obsessed about it, particularly in the Northeast. So if you can get them to educate their grandparents, because every grandparent, what's the one thing every grandparent wants is their kid to visit them. That's the only thing. So we created a campaign and and it was a system. We built a system more than an ad. And then within the system, you put in the assets. You know, you put ways for people to connect, and and I like to sort of systemize and industrialize great creative ideas if you can, without the compromising. You know what I mean? So that was necessary, and it was, and you know, obviously it helped to have, you know, Sarah Silverman collaborate with us to make something that was very funny.
Yeah, I mean, so for that picture that we showed when you're in the room with him, what was that? What was that?
What did Obama say?
Was that a creative review? Was he?
Yeah. What round was that?
Funny enough, that's not from the Great Schlep.
Oh.
Okay.
Because the Great Schlep, remember, that was to get him elected president.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was actually, he called us for a meeting, called me in for a meeting to help him with something else. He was trying to get some healthcare thing through that we sort of had made. So that was him as president.
How did you get connected in the first place? Like, how do you? Is this
people
like
reached out to us.
they call?
they know
They
they're good
got an RFP out?
No, I mean,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
that is it. I mean, I think that's one of the things that, again, and something that I've cherished and I have never taken for granted. The randomness and the wonderfulness of inbound phone calls that we've got, that I've had over my career, and it's not just pre-Droga 5 in UK, but particularly Droga 5 and somewhat now in song, that you're like, what? This is amazing. You know, I've met 3 presidents. I've met multiple captains of industry or young up and coming out. You know, like it's not all about power or sometimes you meet just the most quirky emerging, but it also is very validating. I'd say this again to anyone watching in the power of this industry. Yes, our job is to connect and communicate, and there's a transactional component to it. But there isn't anything that can't be made better with creativity and better communication. There just isn't. And whether you're building a startup or you're trying to change, the trajectory of a multi-trillion-dollar company, or you want people to vote for you, or you want to raise money for a charity, or you want, creative is sort of the shortcut to that, right? And I think you realize that particularly when, when people call you of all, I remember during the pandemic, that was one of my favorite things. Was hard to say you had a favorite thing during the pandemic, but everyone was in crisis and everyone was nervous, and Meta, Facebook at the time, asked us to do something to sort of reassure people, and we did something that was I still makes me cry still to this day, and we made it in 7 days online and all that sort of stuff, and you're like, wow, everybody realizes that there's power in that. And it was also interesting that all the social media companies, they were selling 6-second ads, but they wanted us to do a 2-minute ad.
Right. There's so many.
But it's, again, I think that's the thing, and and more so now than ever. When I first started in the industry, advertising had its lane. You know what I mean? It was print and out of home and TV and radio and those sort of things. And then it sort of expanded. The canvas has expanded with digital now. But now, what is advertising? Advertising is any connection point. It can be a collaboration. It can be a podcast. It can be an experiential thing. It can still be narrative. It can be products. It can be anything. And if you're, as a creative person, not wed to one type of thing, maybe I'm a greedy creative, or maybe I'm an ADHD creative, but I'm just interested in deploying it in whatever container. Creativity is liquid. It fits into whatever container you give it. And people pay us so much money to daydream. I'm like, that's fucking incredible. Like, I still remember, I've said this in other interviews, I still remember the first day after, 18, getting hired as a creative in an agency. It was Foot Cone Building, actually. So I just won award school, and sitting there, and they gave me the A2 pad, and they had to write an ad. And I was like, I got a marker here, and they're going to pay me to draw a picture or write a headline? That's absurd.
Yeah, it's insane.
Particularly as I had brothers who'd studied law and economics, and I'm thinking, they have to draw upon, all this heady stuff, and I'm thinking, I can just make up shit.
Do you think it's harder to daydream now than it was when you started, because you've got this mega entertainment device attached at the hip?
Yeah, well, it's yes, because it's hard for people to go untethered in life now, because there's always a quick fix or a quick reference or a quick distraction or something that can shut something down. And, you need to be bored, and you need to have creative block or whatever. You need to forage around, and that's where greatness emerges. And I just think it is harder now. I mean, now the flip of it is, going back to the point I made before, everything is creative now. So you can sort of insert yourself in lots of different things. Look at the emergence of, you're doing a great show, you're using the mediums, you can be you can keep your own style. You don't adhere to anyone else's thing, but what feels natural to you. So that's the beauty of the era we're in now. But, and I'm not anti-AI, because I'm sort of, I'm nervous but inspired by it'll unleash and unlock different things. Once we get out of the system, we can do what we're familiar with faster and cheaper, and we get into like, what can we do? What's it allow us to do we couldn't do?
Right.
But yeah, the phone is I get sucked down a rabbit hole of watching dumb reels. You know.
Are you on Instagram? Are you
No,
on Instagram?
I'm not really a social media person. I do have a Instagram thing which is just photos that I share with my family in Australia.
Got
so
it.
it's that small. Nice. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I noticed you're not on
No,
LinkedIn.
no.
It's
Yeah.
we could have used the engagement from
Sorry.
the Droga
Well,
bump.
no, I don't like people talking to me that I don't.
The Droga bump.
I think it's kind of like a cool move. I don't know.
No, I get the value of it. You know, and I know Reid Hoffman very well. You know, I think it's a brilliant thing. But for me, I don't necessarily need it. I mean, I remember, I think it was Tim Nudd said to me, you know, I'm happy if there's any Droga bump, I'm happy to give it to you. He said they used to, back in the day, they used to put, anytime they knew they put a Droga 5 in a headline, they got double the engagement.
Yeah.
I'm like, but then I would use that. I'd tell that to my craze. Like, the whole world's looking at what you guys do, so don't fuck it up.
Right.
So it's more the opposite of like, look at us. I'm like, we need to be.
Yeah, pressure's on.
Exactly.
Don't sit on it. Gino.
I love it. Just want to do a quick rumor clearance here.
Yeah, we're just going to clear up some rumors.
Clear up some rumors here. Is it true that the only award that you display on your shelf is a student award that you won in school?
It's actually not on display anywhere now, but there's two. In my office, I only had 2 awards actually. One was
You had more than 2, but you only displayed.
I only displayed
Yeah.
2. Yes. One was the award school pencil, which is about this big, and it's probably cost $1.50 in the cheapest deadly plastic, and it was for Student of the Year in Australia, Australian writers and art directors, and that just was the first thing I ever. It was the leg up for me. It mattered to me, and then when I got the Lion of St. Mark from Cannes, which is sort of the other complete extreme of that.
This is your book ending.
The book. So I had those 2 together.
Yeah.
But before I won the Lion of St. Mark, I was honoured with that. I only had the award school thing because that was sort of the thing that reminded me, you know, I worked my ass off there and I was a student. I was young. I was 18, and I was like, that is more meaningful for me, and it reminds me of where I came from and who you really are. You know, because
Yeah, and that's a shout out to Ross, our research department.
Yeah.
Ross sourced that rumor to let us clear that one out.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you appreciate that.
No, I do. Look, I do. I think it's a nice touch to dig that up. And actually now it's not even in my office. It's in my desk, on my desk in my farm, just upstairs.
Gotcha. Where do you work out of primarily these days?
Well, I still live in the city because I've got, my youngest is still at school here. I go into the office in Hudson Yards, which is Accenture's sort of head office, a few days a week. I used to love, I loved Droga 5 offices so much. I built my perfect office, so it was heartbroken when I didn't have to leave it, but it felt appropriate that I left it. It would be hard to be running Accenture song in Droga 5, it'd be very biased.
They have to come to you for all the meetings. Everyone has to.
Well, it would have been
take
a little
the
bit
subway.
Yeah, exactly.
And-
No. So, but as I said, now since stepping out of the CEO role, and now as vice chair, I go in the offices when only a few days a week, max, and take meetings. Cherry pick the meetings that I think that I can be of influence and help, and if they're,
Well, if you have extra time on your hands, I think Jack wanted to pitch you an idea.
Oh yeah, I did. I had an idea. You can be honest. I'm very good with feedback.
He's good. He is good.
Okay.
So for this live show, of course, segment driven. We want to add more segments. We were thinking we had a segment where you come on for 5 minutes whenever you want. You can just dial in and talk about whatever you want for 5 minutes. We call it Droga's 5.
I like the branding.
We got thumbs
crowd
up.
is loving it.
The people are going. That's
PR and comms loves the idea.
Okay, so now when you say I can talk about anything I want, does that really mean anything I want?
correct.
Of course.
Yes, we will literally mute our mics and you can just talk about whatever you want. It's like calling into a New York, like a radio show kind of thing.
And as I get older and older, I get more hysterical
Of course.
Yes.
and
yes.
angrier, or
Yeah.
And of course, we have the right to use anything you say for our social feeds. So if you were to get more and more senile, that would
It would help.
it would help.
that's the bump you
That's
wanted.
the Droga bump.
The Droga bump.
We can listen to him deteriorate in real time. I'll give you a possibly.
Okay.
Possibly.
Possibly. I mean, that's
All
pretty
right.
good.
That's
Possibly.
It's much better than I thought that would go.
No, because I got a lot of opinions.
You got to air them out. You can't keep them inside.
Well, yeah, I think it's like
Can't hold it
you
in.
can. We would never tether you to a regimented schedule. So it's
Yeah.
more like whenever
Well,
you
to 5
feel
minutes.
like it. Yeah, but
Max
except for the
5
5 minutes because the rain.
No, I get that. That bursts that if it changes that. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
How old are you guys? How old are you?
20. I'm 20. I'm about to be 28. Gino's 28.
Amazing. Bloody hell.
Yeah, yeah.
Great age.
What were
Great
you
age.
doing at 28?
I was running Saatchi Asia and about to move to run Saatchi London.
Well, I'm 28 and I live in a 15-foot apartment with my buddy, and we just talk about ads sometimes. So
You might be having more fun and maybe having more influence. No, it's brilliant. I mean,
You were East Village early on when you first moved to New York, right?
I'm still in the East Village. I was West Village in the beginning, and then I bought in the East Village 22 years ago. Yeah, we still have our place.
how have we not seen you walking
Yeah,
around
well,
the
where
Where
are
in
we
the
block?
East
running
Village are
these
you?
What's that?
Where in the East Village are you?
We were at 12th and A, and now we're down in the Bowery. We're Bowery Stanton.
Oh, okay. You're a bit further down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm shocked we haven't run into you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I can imagine.
I like
Can you
that.
imagine?
I liked about it. You probably run into my kids.
And,
Yeah, I'm sure.
and your museum. Well, not your museum, but you're a board member of the new museum. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm vice president of the new museum. I love
Thank
that.
you. I just wanted to thank you for getting that. The scaffolding is now gone on the street,
You're welcome.
and I'm going to have to go check it out.
It's
You're welcome.
right around the corner from us. From our
No, it's a great museum.
Yeah.
Great museum. And as I said, new art, new ideas. I mean, I feel like I'm doing a pitch, but it is all about emerging artists, emerging creatives. And so all the sort of major institutions uptown, all their art on their walls and the big celebrated artists, most of those artists, particularly they got their first break in the new museum, which is, again, great. Seeing people go on to do great things, it makes me happy today.
Yeah, for you today, like what keeps you? Are there pursuits or projects that motivate you most these days?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm always going to be engaged and I care deeply about creative endeavors and also about what's going on in the world and things like that. So from a professional stance, as I said, I'm in the role as vice chair. I pick clients and sort of major things that I think are going to have as I said, it's not based on scale or money or fees. It's based on what I think is going to be the most helpful to validate a direction of travel for the company. And then I sort of try and get involved with certain emerging things that might become acquisitions for Song or Accenture that I think are going to expand the aperture of what we do, and that's fun to do. And a little bit of mentoring. But as I said, it sounds comprehensive. I'm not working 5 days a week. I thought I was going to retire, but I'm also advising.
You can't.
I'm not, but I know I'm not retiring. But I definitely, and also on the side, as I said, I'm involved in. I have a foundation with one of my brothers, and I'm advising some startups as well.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of other, new agencies that have started from Droga 5, people that I sort of sometimes give advice to, which I'm very proud of what they're doing.
You're doing very well.
Yeah, it's great. I guess my last thing from me and Gino, feel free to jump in as well, but just one piece of advice for the creatives out there, starting out, maybe more junior, they're trying to figure out their own taste, how they fit into the advertising world. Any piece of advice from David Droga?
Well, it's going to sound obvious because it is, but it's sometimes the obvious things are what people step over and ignore. It's great to admire people in the industries you want to go to, or fellow creators, or work, and that's fine. But that's for inspiration, not emulation, right? I feel like you've got to. What's the connection point between your real belief system and your quirks and who you are and your context, and how you can bring that into your work? Like I still bring all my flaws and all my belief system into the work, or the work that I try and push through. And I think that any creative thinking, like, shit, what do they really like? What turns them on, or what inspires them? Or find a legitimate way to make that, because no one else can do that like you can. And the second thing I'll say is, and I've said this publicly out loud as well, it's so many industries now are ruled by research and compromise and ease. And I'm thinking it really does take the same amount of effort to try and make something great as it does to justify something mediocre. So why wouldn't you try and make something great?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's so many times people spin their wheels justifying mediocrity. And I'm like, fuck, just channel that energy into like trying to do something great and trying to make things that connect with people. And I always start at the end. I start with what do I want people's reactions to be, and then I work backwards from there. And I don't care if our path to that hasn't been done before, or we have to bend the universe to do it. If I know what the end point is, then I've got a target to go to. And it's a brilliant time in the industry. As I said, everyone's nervous about, yes, the business model of the advertising industry is kind of screwed. True, right? I say that publicly, and I not say that because I don't believe in the power of the industry. But the skill set that resides within the industry and the need for the industry, as I said, to connect people, taste, design, empathy, creativity, originality, innovation, strategy, it's never going to go to flavor, right? There does need to be an interface between the platforms and companies. There has to be an interface. We just got to find a better business model to do that. And creatives have stop being held hostage by an old business model and find your new vessel. And like you guys have. It's a very long-winded way of giving some advice.
That's fantastic. No, that was amazing.
Thank you
Do you know
so much.
anything else from you?
No, congratulations on being inducted to the AAF Hall of Fame. We'll see you tonight.
We'll be there tonight. We want to let you know if you need anything, let us know. And I'm sure you need no help with your speech. Also, have you written the speech yet?
I don't write speeches, so I'm much to my chagrin of. But I know a direction to travel or what I want to talk about.
Yep.
He knows the end point. He knows how he wants people
Yeah,
to feel.
It's true.
And you'll get there.
Do you know how you want people to feel?
I want them to feel those that I care about, that I appreciate them for helping me get where I got to, and I want them to feel optimistic. And also, by the way, I also don't want to make it so serious. I want it to be a little bit fun.
You have a
Okay.
joke or two planted in there?
Well, no, well, probably. I don't know. I haven't written jokes, but for it. But,
He hasn't written it.
But I'm not gonna take-
speech. Pay attention for once.
have like a little joke that you're gonna.
Oh,
somewhere
like
I
a
gotta
go-to.
land- I gotta land this. Thing.
Gotta land
no, I
that.
haven't got that far. But I'll definitely think about it. I'm not going to stand up on stage and just riff.
Right.
I'm definitely going to. But also, by the way, I've been
You got like
exactly.
4 or 5 hours.
Exactly. What am I doing?
Well, we can listen. Like I said, if you need anything,
No, that's very kind. Well, they put a tribute video together.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's awesome.
And I did request that they take the piss on me a little bit in that one. I
Great.
didn't want it to be so saccharine.
Yes.
But
Well, we'll have a couple rough drafts for you to review for your speech.
Please,
Seems
I
like you're
expect-
asking
I'll
for
throw
the-
some jokes your way.
yeah, that's what I was genuinely asking. I'll be very disappointed if you don't give me like typed sheets and notes and
Of course. Happy to do that.
5
I'd
minutes?
gladly. Yeah.
It has to be 5 minutes.
It has to be 5 minutes, of course. We'll plant some. Also, if maybe throughout the night you're having a conversation, I'll just get in your ear, like, "Hey, David, here's
Say
a joke."
this is what you need to say.
I just thought this
Exactly.
was really good.
She's looking bored. You should tell her this.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Another drink.
Yeah.
right.
Here you go. Well, we're excited. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to come in. This has been
Thank you.
fantastic.
No, amazing. Thank you. And again, congratulations on your success. And, it's fun. I like to ramble.
Love it.
That's the show. We'll see you Tuesday, 11 a.m. Thanks so much for tuning in. David Droga, ladies and gentlemen.